Good to see everybody. Good to be back here with you all. Missed you guys on Sunday. We're going to get into our next lesson. It is actually the end of this weekly, if you want to call it, how they're divided in this class. The end of this week 2 section on family goals. We're going to talk about this idea of enjoying the journey. Our class starts with a rather lengthy story. And I decided to tell that story to my kids while we were driving down the road the other day. And I did the best I could from memory. And I talked for probably an hour trying to explain how this magical fish granted this wish and all of the intricate details of the man's life that he jumped over and that he got to enjoy and things that he missed. And at the end of this story comes back around. I'm sure you all read the story yourselves. At the end of that, I asked the boys, so what did you learn from that? Then I had to wake them up. What did you learn from that? And Easton's response was, don't talk to magical fish when they come out of the water and say they'll grant you a wish. The lesson was actually, despite the very long story at the beginning of it, is one of my favorite lessons that we've done so far. It was a very needed lesson, not the most needed lesson for me from this week. And here in a moment, we'll get to these questions at the end and hopefully have some time to discuss some of those. But nonetheless, this was a very impactful lesson for me to meditate on the need to not be quite so goal-oriented. Our main goal is heaven, but we've got a life that we're living on the way, and there's some benefits to enjoying that. So to see that, our author takes us to Ecclesiastes 11 and 12. I'm going to take us to Ecclesiastes 9. If you want to open your Bibles there, we're going to pretty much spend our entire time in that chapter before we get into the questions at the end. I want to read through it. I want to talk about some things from the chapter, and we're just going to hopefully bounce back and forth off each other. So we'll read a little bit. We'll talk about some things from those verses. Try to impact those into our relationships with one another, with our families, our children, and make application off of that. And then at the end of class, if we have time, which I'm thinking we will get into these week 2 group discussions. So having said all that, Luke, do you care to lead us in an opening prayer?
Perfect. Our Heavenly Father, we want to thank you so very much for another opportunity we have to just join together to be here in this room, to be in our classes, for our children to be in classes together. We want to thank you for each individual that surrounds us and surrounds them, that they're an encouragement to our daily lives, that they're encouragement to us spiritually. We're just so thankful for these relationships, and we're so thankful for the time that we have that we can sit together and open your word, discuss these things, to influence, be examples, to just encourage each other every moment that we have together. So thankful for our brothers and sisters here. Help us throughout this class. Help us to receive your word well and to apply it to our daily lives, to grow stronger each and every day from it. And dear Lord, just help us to always be there for one another. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Amen. So the Book of Ecclesiastes, I've had described to me before, is a book that many people start but don't finish, and it's a dangerous book to pick up and then put back down. The book begins with such a depressing mentality that causes many people to say, I don't know why this is in the Bible, and I don't, frankly, want to read any more of it. It leaves you with a sense of what's the point, especially with life, what's the point? But the book is actually filled with remarkable and beautiful images of the hope that we share because of the God that we serve. So it is a great book to study. It is a great book, especially for those in a world of uncertainty, very much like the world we live in right now. To if you're looking for something to study with a family member, with someone outside of the church, Ecclesiastes is a great place to start because it makes us to realize the true vanity of this life apart from God. And that's going to be the big thing that we see. But I think verse 9 is going to really dial in to what we want to talk about this afternoon. So we're going to begin looking at just the first 6 verses. And can I get somebody to volunteer to read that? Ecclesiastes 9, verses 1 through 6.
I get you.
Okay.
But all this I laid to heart, examining it all, how the righteous and the wise and their deeds are in the hand of God. Whether it is love or hate, man does not know, both are before him. It is the same for all, since the same event happens to the righteous and the wicked, to the evil, or to the good and the evil, to the clean and the unclean, to him who sacrifices and him who does not sacrifice. As the good one is, so is the sinner, and he who swears is as he who shuns an oath. This is an evil in all that is done under the sun, that the same event happens to all. Also, the hearts of the children of man are full of evil, and madness is in their hearts while they live, and after that they go to the dead. But he who is joined with all the living has hope, for a living dog is better than a dead lion. For the living know that they will die, but the dead know nothing, and they have no more reward, for the memory of them is forgotten. Their love and their hate and their envy have already perished, and forever they have no more share in all that is done under the sun.
All right, verses 1 through 6 kind of goes back to my point on the book of Ecclesiastes. What's the point of these first 6 verses? What's the main thing that the author is bringing to our realization here at the beginning of chapter 9?
Life's unpredictable.
Life is unpredictable, absolutely. He brings up that there are wicked and there are righteous, and there are those who are engaged in oath keeping, and those who are going to shun that, are going to keep themselves from this binding of their word. And it doesn't really matter which category you fall into. Life is unpredictable. What else?
I heard an analogy one time, a chess analogy. I don't know how to play chess, but I thought it was at the end of the game of chess, the king and the pawn go in the same box.
Yeah.
So, I mean, same thing's going to happen to all of us.
Absolutely.
No matter where you're at, really status-wise or whatever.
Absolutely. The thing that I take away from the first 6 verses is that we have, no matter our state in life, no matter our finances, no matter our righteousness or our foolishness, no matter where we stand in life, there is one thing that we are all guaranteed. Now, I've heard it said before that the only things in life that are guaranteed is taxes and death. And we're not going to escape death. That's the point of the first 6 verses, is it is a part, it is a reality. And we spend so much time trying to forget that. And I think the reason for that is because it's depressing. It's the reason why we close Ecclesiastes after the first 2 chapters and say, I don't want to read anymore. There's no point. There's no purpose. Death is a reality for us, and we want to do everything we can to pretend like there's something we can do to delay that. There's something that we can do to hold that off, or there's something we can do to control that event in our lives. The point of the preacher at the beginning of this is there's nothing we can do about that. Life under the sun is cursed by this evil. Afterwards, they all go to the dead. How does that, this is the question I really want to take away from that. What effect does that have on your life? As you think about that realization, life is unpredictable. Life is filled with all different states of being and all different states of people, but one guarantee for all of them is one day we must die. How does that affect the way that you live your life, the way that you think about life today?
It should cause us to think about the value that we have with the time that we have. If we wake up in the morning, we value that because it's been not guaranteed to many. That's my thought.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent thought on this, is that because we know that there is an end for me, for my time on this earth, because there is a finite amount of time that I will be allowed, and I don't know what that time is, how do I value the seconds that I'm given each and every day? I forget the illustration. We use it often with our boys, and I'll probably mess the numbers up because I think I make them up every single time I use it. But I tell the boys that if someone gave you 90,000 gold coins, and these are yours, and along the way, somebody took 10 of them out, somebody took 60 of them out, and stole them from you or tarnished them, you had to scuffle with them to get them back, would you think that it was worth it when you have 90,000 more in your bag? Their answer always is no. I'll just give it to them. I'll just let them have it. And we oftentimes correlate that to the seconds in a day. So you were given an X amount of seconds in the day, and why are you getting upset because someone has tarnished 10 of them, 60 of them? An hour of your day given to something that is inconvenient. You have so much time, and you're not for sure what's going to happen with the next. Use the time that we have cautiously. What else? What are some other things that come to mind when you think about this guarantee that we have in life?
When you sit down and really think about it, it's scary.
Certainly can be, yeah. Certainly can be. That all of the things that are uncertain in the day-to-day are only really fueled by the fact that I don't know what's coming tomorrow. I don't know that tomorrow might be the moment for me where I run out of time. I know for me that something that comes to my mind, we went through a very unpleasant lawsuit with some family, extended family, that ended with parts of that relationship that aren't tied to us lying in court about things regarding the family that we're talking about. At the end of the day, everybody's mad. Everybody's upset. How come we did everything right? We told the truth. We tried to be fair. How come we did all of this and this person who behaved wickedly was rewarded? That's not fair. What this reminds me is my life and their life have the same consequence. No matter what happens, no matter how good I am, no matter how bad they are, we're both going to share the same consequence. One day we're both going to die. I can choose to let those things really fester and bother and change the way that I use the time that I have today, or I can trust that we're all going to stand before a fair and just God, and He will give an ultimate judgment that is far more righteous than anything any earthly judge will give. This causes me to think about the relationships that I have and the way that people interact with me and how I interact with them. What am I going to do with that? And so let's ratchet that up a little bit and put it back to the purpose of our study. These are the ways this affects my life, but how does this affect my family? How does the realization that we are all guaranteed one thing, we are going to not get out of this life alive, how does that affect my family, and how does it affect the time that I give to my family?
I think you got to look at what you're leaving, what kind of legacy you'll leave when that time comes. You know, how you want to be remembered, or what seeds did you plant, as you were here. That, to your and Brian's point, you could go two ways. You could go look at that and be like, there's the same thing gonna happen to me. It's gonna happen to somebody that's not me. So
Yeah.
just forget it and I'll just live for me or whatever. Or you can tie into our servant class. I can use this time to serve. Whatever. I guess it's just what you want to leave.
Absolutely. Great thought. What kind of legacy am I going to leave behind? What kind of seeds am I have planted for my family, for those that I have an influence on? Excellent thought. What else?
I'm going to say this wrong. There's a sense of invincibility when, especially in your teen, I think as a teenager, I think back when I was a teenager, tomorrow was for sure. If you know what I mean. I had no concern that tomorrow was not going to be there. And then as I've gotten older, it's sinking a little harder that, I know what the Bible said then, but I just didn't think about it. Now I think about it a lot. Well, let me fast forward a little bit. You know, a week ago, Thatcher is invincible to me. And then I find out that a family lost a 1-year-old. And that sunk in hard. And when I got home and saw Thatcher, I was emotional. And both finding myself thanking God that, you know, he's here when I get home, but also praying that, man, you know, just please continue to bless him with health and all of us with health. So, I mean, it's just like stages of life bring you back to, and I hate to say that because it's like reality checks, I guess. And we shouldn't be so reliant on reality checks, but it happens more often than not. I know in my own life, it's like I find out a 35-year-old friend was in a wreck. Well, then it's a reality check. But I will say it seems like it's getting a little bit better as I get older to reflect on those things. But there's still moments when I'm like, man, that can literally happen to any of us. It's like I know it, I say it, but believing it.
Right.
And when you actually hear it that it happens, it sinks in a little harder. And it is scary, but it also makes me think about the last words that I say to my kids when I leave the house, or during Bible study, or my, you know, I try to think, if I don't come home tomorrow, what is on their mind in terms of godly things? What's going to be their goal? How are they going to have the outlook on godly things? So, I don't know, being a little bit more reflective and realistic and letting that sink in and trying to talk to them, not to scare them to death. And that's a very fine line with kids. But also to let them know that things do happen, but always keeping God first. That's kind of how it's affected, I guess, my life.
Yeah, I think a big part of that for me is true as well. That I remember not too many years ago that there was never a situation I was in where I thought, this may end badly for me. No matter what we were doing, whatever we had decided to build or whatever stunt we were going to pull, it was always just, how cool is this going to be whenever I do this, whenever I have the proof that I've done something amazing. Now, every time the boys climb a tree, I'm looking out there thinking, that branch is weak. That branch is not going to hold them. I'm worried about those things. And I think it's because of this and passages like James 4:14. What is life but a vapor or a mist? It was here and then it is gone. Because of that, because our time is not guaranteed to us, and because we know that everything is ticking down towards the day that I have to answer the appointment, or that my family has to answer the appointment that all men must face, how do I want to spend the time that I have? That's where I come back to with this. How do I want to spend this time? The end of Ecclesiastes gives us a goal for that. It gives us a hope. Again, I said Ecclesiastes is a book that will either break your spirit or bolster your soul. If you get to the end of the book, you recognize that the purpose of this book is to drive us towards this conclusion. Chapter 12, verse 13. When all has been heard, the conclusion is, fear God and keep His commandments. The New American Standard has, because this applies to every person, you might have heard that this is the whole duty of man in other translations. This is our goal. This is stepping back to that main goal that we started this series, this weekly series with. Our ultimate goal is heaven. Our ultimate goal is getting every part of our family to Christ, bringing them to God, to be justified, to be saved, so that we are going to spend eternity in heaven. And that's the goal of the Ecclesiastes preacher. That's what he is pointing us towards. But along the way, as he goes through these sometimes depressing, sometimes very sobering statements, he continues to bring out pictures of that don't first come to mind. When I think of the whole duty of man is to fear God and keep His commandments, a very specific picture comes to my mind. What comes to your mind? When you think of that conclusion to the book, what do you think about?
Death of Joshua.
The death of Joshua. All right, elaborate.
Well, just in Judges 2, he dies, and then You see another generation that
Yeah.
did not fear God. Certainly didn't keep His commandments. What's the ripple effect that happened?
Right.
Because of that.
So the effect that a leader has on the people around him, and the absence, the void that creates after he's gone. Excellent. What else?
I mean, like you said, I mean, you can look up through all the way verse 12, and still, before he says the conclusion, you can still get multiple things that you think he means in this book until he says this. But, I mean, like you said, the preacher's pointing out that this is the actual purpose. I've told you that life is not, there's so many things that are so meaningless. And I don't want to end there because you're going to think life is just garbage. And I don't want you to think about death all the time because you're just going to be depressed off like we just talked about. So with death in mind, your life, your precious moments with your family in mind, knowing that your time is short and death is near us any time, fear God and keep His commandments. Because, as he says, that applies to every person. Without that, what is the value until death? Life has value, but only based on how we live it. And he's saying here, the only way to live it and not be vanity, from verses all the way up to here, is fear God and keep His commandments. So that's what I think of. I think of that. He just ties it in one verse. He could have said all that first.
Yeah.
But like I said, the point of it was, none of this I said is all vanity if you just, verse 13. If you get verse 13.
So when I hear that life, all of this is vanity without verse 13. All this is vanity unless we fear God and keep His commandments. A very specific picture comes to my mind of Levites, of people who have a law. This is what you do everything that's in this. It is rigid. It is sometimes cold. It is just, this is what we do. Fear God and keep His commandments. That's the beauty of the rest of the book, as you pointed out, that he could have said this at the front of it, but he describes the path and the process along the way. That there are things that look valuable that turn out to be worthless. And there are things that look depressing that turn out to lead to some of our most beautiful and vivid blessings that we see in this life from God. And that's where verses 7 through 10 really take us. Someone want to read that for us?
Go then, eat your bread in happiness, and drink your wine with a cheerful heart. For God has already approved your works. Let your clothes be white all of the time. Let not oil be lacking on your head. Enjoy life with the woman whom you love all the days of your fleeting life, which He has given you under the sun. For this is your reward in life, and your toil in which you have labored under the sun.
So in the midst of this statement about the realization that death is something that we cannot avoid, it's a part of our lives, something that we should not try to minimize, something that we should understand is it's a part of the existence that we are, he brings in this statement that we are to go and eat our bread in happiness, drink our wine with cheerful heart. This life is meant to be enjoyed. Have you ever heard that? You ever had the church preach that that's what this life is about? I haven't. Not heard that preached in my life. I've heard that we live for the life to come, that we sacrifice for the life to come. What we're reading in these passages don't take away any of that. They don't take away anything that our true value, our true hope is resting in a life that is greater than the fleeting beauties of this day. But never let that take away from the fact that God created heaven and earth and all that is in it, and He looked on it and said, it is good. Not it is mediocre. Not it'll do for now. It'll get them to where I want them to be. He created everything, and He looked at it, and He said, it is good. The writer of Ecclesiastes looks at life and says there is value in finding enjoyment in your day. Why do you think that is?
I think it can lead to a thankful heart, gratefulness. because we realize that God is the giver of all good and perfect gifts come from God. And so we see when there's a nice, warm, sunshiny day, oh, that's cool. You know, when you're out on the lake, hey, you know, God made this. When you're out, you know, doing whatever you like to do,
Right.
you know, that wouldn't be there if it wasn't for God. And that just shows to the level that he cares about it. It's not like he just has this rule book of you need to punish yourself all the time, constantly, so that way maybe you'll be worthy to enter this. But, you know, it's more of like God is saying, no, I love you. I want you to have some enjoyment here too, and you know, some of that.
Certainly, and I think you've said that well. That this blessing that we have in life is meant to prompt us to look to something greater, to look and recognize that something greater created this, something greater is allowing us to experience this, and to spend our days going through our life miserable. What does that say about our Creator? What does that say about the relationship that we have with Him? You know, I've met the Christian who just looks like they were weaned on a pickle, and they're always upset. They're sour. They're just, nothing is going to make me happy. And I have to wonder in my mind somewhere, what is it about this life that you're focused on? Is it the fact that there are evil in the world? Our author talks about that. There is. Is it the fact that people have cheated you, that people have ruined your day? I met an old lady this morning at Baxter's Coffee in the drive-thru, which, by the way, I'm here to get my coffee, and she's trying to leave, and there's a person behind me and a person in front of me, and there's nowhere that anybody can go. It's like that old game Snake that you used to play, and it's about to eat its own body. We're about to get a game over. And so I realized I could turn my Jeep some and try to like catty corner myself so she could get through. And I have no doors on my Jeep, so when she comes through, she rolls her window down, and I thought she's gonna thank me, and all she does is scream a cuss word and drive by.
Nice.
I thought I can let that ruin my day, or I can just enjoy the fact that I've got a beautiful day to be sitting in this line, waiting to get a drink that I know I'm going to enjoy, that I know my wife is going to enjoy. We have so many blessings. Find enjoyment in this life. There's another reason why that's important. I think that's really one of the main reasons that the author brings this up, is that our lives, we are going to be held accountable for them one day. You know, the very next line after he says, find cheer, eat your bread and cheer, drink your wine and cheer, the very next line is, put on white garments, anoint yourself with oil. We have to remember, this is still poetic language. This is not just, that's what they wore and that's what they did in the Old Testament. This is still poetic Hebrew language. And he's talking about purity. He's talking about remembering the fact that you give an account for what you're doing. And so, yes, enjoy your life, but don't forget there is one that you must give an account for. But if I'm going to just be miserable my entire life, I'm going to have to give an account for that too. I'm going to have to give a reasoning to my God for why I never had any enjoyment in this creation that you made. I never had anything that brought happiness, that brought a blessing to me. What does that say? What does that say about His creation? What does that say about me in those relationships? I know what it says to me. I know what it says about my family. I know what it says about the value of my family to me. Growing up in a family that valued enjoyment, looking at our time and choosing to use it in a way that brought cheer and that brought a blessing, that was striving to remain pure before God, that meant that my family cared about me. That was pictured in specific ways. We'll get into that in just a moment. But that meant that my family, they wanted to spend that time with me. We didn't come together and they were just miserable because we're all here in the same area. We're having a reunion. We're together on the holidays. I come from a family that valued very much the enjoyment of this life together. And that made a big impact on me growing up. Let me ask you, when it comes to our families, and when it comes to seeking enjoyment in this life, but keeping it pure, understanding the balance, that is not just about whatever's fun we do, because this life's all about having fun. That's not what the author's saying at all. When it comes to striking a balance between purity and enjoying the life that God has blessed us with, what are some ways that you feel like you can stress that, or you can introduce that into your lives of your family?
Just like what you said, spending your time and bringing cheer and doing those things. If we take the family unit collectively, and we start first as parents, and going out and serving others, and we focus on the joy and the cheer that it's bringing the elderly of the church, and these physical sides of things. I think that is where we start to foster that attitude of love. The class before with the servitude. I think it all goes back to that, and we can't be so rigid that it becomes a chore, because we are doing. In doing that, we're doing exactly what we don't want to do, and that is adding on these extras to our family, these extra stresses along with everything else. So to me, there has to be, that has to be woven in to the family unit. How we spend our time together, bringing cheer, bringing joy. That's just like, even if you do something that's not so great, yard work for one of the widows, or for somebody that's down. The kids may despise that, but we can still get ice cream afterward. We can still make it an enjoyable, memorable trip. Just my thought.
Yeah, excellent. I think absolutely showing our children to focus on the good that they can do, and the importance of righteousness, the importance of service, the importance of love, things that we've talked about previously, is vital. But as you mentioned, also showing them the beauty of just enjoying the reward after that. The family outing to get ice cream, going to do that together. Take those moments and use those as an opportunity to build and cherish something for your kids, that this is okay. This is okay for my family to just have this time together where we're sitting here eating an ice cream. These memories are stuck in my head, and what that does, like Jason pointed out a minute ago, is that ties something down in their life, something that's going to stick with them, something that they're not going to forget when things get hard, when we're not doing the things that are enjoyable. Is this life isn't all bad. My day isn't all bad. There are blessings that I have. I have a family that loves just to take time to go and get a cup of ice cream together. We go and we do hard work, and I don't enjoy that. But maybe I enjoy later the feeling that it gives me to know I did something good for somebody else. I enjoy seeing them reap the benefit of that. But even from an early age, I enjoy the ice cream afterwards. There's nothing wrong with linking good acts of service and even just moments out of our day, moments to enjoy and to have a good time. So here's what stands out to me. As I said, I come up in a family that is set aside time for enjoying our company with one another, whether it be a family reunion, a vacation, a holiday, just a weekend when everybody was there at the same time. It was not uncommon that at some point somebody was just going to pick up a songbook and start singing. Everybody was going to wind up joining in eventually. And what would happen during those times of singing together is 9 times out of 10, the songbook gets put down because someone starts talking about, I remember something about that song. I remember that was Granddaddy's favorite song. I remember that one time that Uncle so-and-so led that song and he butchered it in front of the whole church. I remember, and memories start flowing out of that. And next thing you know, we've lost track of time with the amount of hours that we've spent laughing together, crying together. Memories that come simply from just sitting down and singing. We've had greater connections in the past over a card game or a campfire than just about anything else that we've done together. And what that did, those enjoyable moments, they caused something for young Kyle as I'm growing. They became a source of desire. I looked forward to my family time. I looked forward to moments when I could be with mom and dad and my uncles, when I could be in this moment where we just don't have cares. And what that created was a desire not to tarnish that. And I knew that less noble things would. I knew that if I chose to act foolishly in the world around me, that was going to change the relationship that we had. I knew that if I decided to engage in actions that I knew didn't coincide with my family and our choices that we've made to follow Christ, that it was going to wreck the relationship that we had. It posed a big threat. And that's my point, I think. By creating simply an environment that was enjoyable, my family put a desire in me, maybe not for the right reason at a young age, but maybe the exact right reason at a young age, to desire to do things that were right, to desire to do things that would not damage this relationship. When we read Acts 2, 42 through 47, I think that's the very picture that we start to see, is a family community that is creating opportunities together that are so enjoyable, that are so necessary, that are so intertwined. We don't want to mess that up. And that when we do and a church has to separate that relationship, we feel that. We feel the pain from that, and we want to draw back together. And so just like we should see that in the church, we see it in our family. Taking an opportunity to just say, we're going to have fun. We're going to have a good time sharing moments with one another. It anchors those things into the hearts of our family. Don't forget that. Carry that with you. Keep those treasured and stored up, because there's going to come days when it's incredibly difficult to deal with the pain and the anger and the frustration that comes from being in relationships with one another. And in those times, we can lean back on these things and know this life isn't always bad. This life isn't always terrible. In fact, I asked Holly, I said, how would you recommend we do this today? I said, how do we start this in our family? How do we continue to foster it? And some of her responses were responses that we've already seen in these books. Just spend time together. It doesn't have to be, teaching our kids that the fulfillment of life is going to the movies. The fulfillment of life is doing things that fill it with fun and exciting moments. It's filling it with enjoyable moments. Filling it with things that bring joy to the heart. She said, what if we put all our phones away for one night? Put them on charge and they don't come off the basket. What if we decided that tonight's a night that TVs are not going to be turned on and we're going to be outdoors all evening, and we're just going to talk, we're going to hang out, we're going to run, we're going to play games, we're going to pick up a puzzle and put it together, we're going to do activities. What if we would show our kids that it was okay to just enjoy the life that God has blessed us with? Not feel like every single moment I have to be doing everything perfectly. And I think the culmination of that was perfectly seen in my son Madden on the way here. We're on our way to Lowe's to pick up some supplies for a project we're working on for Holly. And I stopped at McDonald's to get him dinner. We're on the way, and he says, as I eat my McDonald's from my, the fry box, and I'm dumping fries in my mouth, Dad, you dropped a fry. Dad, you dropped another fry. Dad, Dad, the light turned green. And I finally went, I know. I know that I dropped the fries, and I know that the light changed. And this is the last time I let you sit up front, which I'm sure he's not supposed to be, but you keep it up, you're not going to sit up front anymore. So then we're sitting in the light, waiting to turn to Lowe's, and the light turns green, and I'm fiddling with something, and I look up and say, oh, I got to go. And he said, I was going to tell you, but I figured you'd get mad at me. All I wanted was for them to enjoy time with Dad while Mom's away. For them to go out and let's take a trip to Lowe's together. Let's go eat a quick unhealthy meal together. Let's have this moment together, and in my desire for things to just fit exactly into what I wanted, kind of messed that up. I told him later, I was like, look, I'm not mad at you. I wasn't mad at you earlier. But we need to show our kids the importance of that. I'm going to read the last couple of verses in this, and if you have comments, please feel free to make them, but because we just had the first bell, we'll rush through the rest of this. Verses 11 through the end of the chapter. Say, again, I saw under the sun that the race is not to the swift, and the battle is not to the warriors, and neither is bread to the wise, nor wealth to the discerning, nor favor to men of ability. For time and chance overtake them all. Moreover, man does not know this time. Like fish caught in a treacherous net, and birds trapped in a snare, so the sons of men are ensnared at an evil time when it suddenly falls on them. Also this I came to see as wisdom under the sun, and it impressed me. There was a small city with few men in it. A great king came surrounded it and constructed large siege works against it. But there was found in it a poor wise man. He delivered the city by his wisdom, yet no one remembered that poor man. So I said, wisdom is better than strength, but the wisdom of the poor man is despised, and his words are not heeded. The words of the wise man, or the wise heard in quietness, are better than the shoutings of a ruler among fools. Wisdom is better than weapons of war, but one sinner destroys much good. So, a couple things to point out about this, and if you all, I'll open it up to any discussion that you all want to have. But sometimes when we start looking at the fact that this life is important for us to enjoy, we get the mentality that when things are going good, that means we're being blessed. And when things are going bad, that means God's trying to get our attention. There's a key verse here, one of my favorite verses in Ecclesiastes, verse 12. At the very end of that verse, I take that back, it's verse 11, sorry. At the very end of that verse, time and chance overtake them all. You might have time and chance happen to us all. People ask all the time, why did God cause this to happen? Why did God cause a worldwide pandemic to happen? Why did God cause... The point of the author up to this point is that evil happens. The evil thing about this world is that no matter what we do, whether we're good or bad, death happens. It comes. Bad things occur in our lives. And yes, the Bible is full of examples of God trying to get his people's attention. And it's full of examples of him saying, if you follow me, if you keep my commandments, I will bless you. But the author of Ecclesiastes is also reminding us that we live in a fallen world. Time and chance happen to us all. When things go south, what does our family keep its focus on? Does it turn to the circumstance that we're under and say, this right here gets my focus, this right here gets all of my energy and all of my ability? Do we turn it to the God above that? Do we turn it to the memories that we have made prior to that? Where does our focus go? And the last thing that I want us to take from Ecclesiastes, and to me this was the biggest point of the book, or of the chapter, in regards to our family, is raising our kids and building our family with wisdom. I can build my family to have the very best builders ever. I can work hard as I can to teach my boys all of the codes for wherever we are living and teach them how to make all of the right cuts and use the right joints for the right situations. I can try to press them to be the very best baseball players or basketball players, whatever athletic that they're involved in. And yes, I can try to make them to be the very best biblical scholars that there ever was. But at the end of the day, when I may create that, if I've made them absolutely hate me in driving them to be that picture that I want them to be, what are the chances of them staying with it? The author asks us to use wisdom. Wisdom means to look down the road. Wisdom means to see where this might lead. If my children are miserable under the heavy thumb of dad that is saying this is what you're going to be or else, there's a good chance that when they get older and they have a choice and they have a chance of their own, they're going to say, I don't want to be that. I want to be something else. I want to be I want to be happy. There's a reason the world is stealing our children from us. because the world promises to accept you as you are. The world says, I will give you the love, and I will give you the acceptance, and I will give you the tolerance for whatever you want to be. No matter what, we will love you. We cannot accept sin, I understand that. But we can create environments in our families that say, we are about enjoyment too. We want to enjoy our time with you, not with the image of you that I'm demanding you be, but with who God has made you to be. I can enjoy time with my sons that are very different from me. One of them may be my spitting image, but he does not act like me in many different ways. He has different likes. He has things that absolutely drive me nuts. And I can enjoy spending time with him, and I can create an environment where he enjoys to spend time with me. And we can live together in wisdom, trying to see where this relationship is taking. Where is the end of our journey? Where are we going to end up? And verses 13 through 18 tell us the world is not going to accept that. I apologize, we're not going to get to our discussions, but the world is not going to say, good job for that. The world is going to tell us, you got to train them up to be the right sort of student. You got to get them in the right sort of job, to get the right sort of house, to get the right sort of things in their garage. You got to make them have the right sort of skills. Even our own mental constructs will tell us they have to know the Bible front and back. They have to be able to memorize these things. Wisdom looks at from the beginning to the end. It says, where is this leading? As we do that, the author, our book, Edwin, he advises us to not be in such a hurry to get to that goal, to recognize that it takes time, to see that there are things to enjoy along the way, and to create a relationship in our family where we're not miserable with one another. We're focused on our heavenly goal. We're focused on love and service. We're remembering that God has created a life here that we can enjoy, that can create good memories, that can create something that press us on. Let's take a little bit of time this week to be with our families and say, we just want to enjoy the time that we have right now together. Whatever that be in your family. For us, I guess we're going to spend the night on an air mattress tonight. The mom's gone on a trip, so we're gonna camp out in the basement. Let's take some time and some opportunities to enjoy the life that we have. Thank you guys. Sorry again, I didn't give enough time for discussion. I appreciate what you all said.